Hello, everybody. Thank you for clicking on Monday night. Coming up here in just a few short minutes, Chris is going to be joining us. Um, got some headlines to run through before he gets here. Hello, Foxy Lotus. Thank you for listening. We appreciate that. Thank you, everybody that has clicked on. And if you'd like to join the chat, you can do so by going to the Facebook, or I'm sorry, not the Facebook page, but the YouTube page. Hello there, Cunning Stunt. Again, thank you all for tuning in. And those that are watching at your convenience, aren't watching live, thank you very much. Thank everybody. You know, there are a lot of places you could be, and we thank you for giving us some time. Again, Chris is coming on here. That's why the link is up in the chat. And it'll be just a few short minutes. So let me do some headlines here real quick. And start out, Hamas has released two more hostages as the war with Israel continues. That comes from CBS News. And let me show this one actually, because I've talked about this a lot and I haven't really showed any proof that it is happening. But Biden just sent B-52s right to North Korea's doorstep, if you will, as they have landed in South Korea, again, for the first time in history that happened. The question, we asked the question last episode on Friday, is the U.S. ready? The question being posed in some areas of Washington, D.C., including the Hill, a five-front war that the U.S. is unprepared to fight. The fronts being basically one of being here politically, as divided as our country is. Ukraine, Russia being one of the other fronts, with, of course, the Middle East and China, the Asian Pacific, not just China, but China and North Korea, and fifth one possibly South America or Africa. So just something to think about. Again, if you're just clicking on, thanks for joining. Just running through some headlines here before Chris joins us. Both Blinken and Austin, that's Secretary of State Blinken, Secretary of Defense Austin, have warned Iran that the U.S., quote, won't hesitate to respond if United States troops or equipment, specifically ships, are attacked, and it's found to be backed by Iran, if not Iran itself. Chris and I have talked about this for about 2 weeks now, and finally Kevin McCarthy comes out and says potential terrorist sleeper cells in the United States. Now, speaking of Kevin McCarthy, former Speaker of the House, and was ousted a little over 3 weeks ago. Today, on this Monday, the 23rd of October, Republicans were having a meet and greet, if you will, because 9 Republicans are running for House of Representatives Speaker, and only 2 of them voted to certify the 2020 election. The other 7 are still part of the whatever you're going to want to call it. Anyway, they dropped Jim Jordan as the nominee on Friday. Then they all went home for the weekend and came back today and decided they'd have a little meet and greet and possibly have a vote tomorrow. As far as a vote tomorrow amongst the Republican caucus to decide a potential candidate. 9 candidates running for Speaker: Majority Whip Emmer, Kevin Hern, Scott Austin, Byron Donalds, Jack Bergman, Mike Johnson, Pete Sessions, Dan Messer, and Gary Palmer. Emmer and Scott voted to certify the 2020 election, releasing statements shortly afterwards condemning the J6 Capitol attack. During the riot, a group of former President Donald Trump supporters tried to block Congress certification of the 2020 presidential election and President Joe Biden's victory. So just some of our headlines for tonight. I'll hop back over here to the chat real quick. Say hello to Stitch and hello to Black Eyed Peas. Again, hi, Stunning. And thank you, Foxy Lotus, for listening in. Not going away. Okay, not going away. It's okay. Heard her grandson surgery. Excellent. All right. All right. Let me pull the map up because I forgot to do that. It'll take me just a second here. And I hope anyway. No, it's not. It's taking me to Bing. Hold on. All right. There we go. All right. Hang on just a moment and we'll get Chris up here and we'll get rolling. We got some topics to talk about. Some things that, well, we'll just unravel some things here one at a time. And let me get this off of here. So we're set and ready to go. I apologize for not having this set before we started tonight, but here we go. We'll be talking a lot about what's going on in this area right here in Israel, among other things. And with that being said, let's get Chris up here. Chris, you with us, man?
Yes, I am. How are you, Barry?
I'm all right. You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
Can everyone hear me? Just want to make sure that everyone.
I think so. I turned the whole thing down right now. Yeah, we got you.
Okay, you got me? Oh, good.
Yeah. I turned everything down because I pumped up the pre-roll. I do like an hour and a half. I do like a minute and a half thing at the beginning of it, and got some good music behind it. So I pumped it up, and I overmodulated a little bit. So I got to turn everything down, and then I forget to turn this back up. Here we are. Thanks for being here, man.
Thank you for having me back on your show, Barry.
All right, let's start here. A hospital was bombed last week, one way or the other. Israel has admitted today they in attacks last night there were incoming nearby 2 other hospitals in Gaza. Then we hear on Saturday, I believe it was, of the mosque in Yemen.
Jenin.
Is that how it's pronounced there? Jenin?
Yeah. Jenin. Right.
Jenin, right?
Yep. Jenin. And that's in the West Bank.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about that area? Do you know anything about the mosque that was hit? It supposedly.
I don't know about the mosque per se.
Okay. All right.
I am familiar with that area, the West Bank. And honestly, you know what? There are a lot of blacks that live in Jenin, in that part of the West Bank, in Palestine. They're Palestinians. And I found it. They said there was the Israelis said there was a sleeper cell, or not a sleeper cell, but a cell looking to do damage to, or actually commit a terrorist attack to the Israelis or IDF, whomever, and they
it was a preemptive strike.
Right. So they're saying that that this group was actually that this cell was actually getting ready to hit them, so they hit them first, and the mosque was, the place where they were, doing uh, the planning for the operation, and they had information, so they hit it.
Okay, so this is how I'm imagining the Muslim world is viewing the attack on the mosque, that
Hmm.
Israel has elevated the attacks to attacking God now, to attacking Allah, to attacking
Well,
their God
well, you know what?
by
That's
attacking the mosque.
right. Well, that's not the first time that this has actually happened. You see, historically, let's go back to um, maybe the early 2000s. All right,
Okay.
and you can research this. Everyone can research this. This happened at it's called in Hebron. It's called the Cave of the Patriarchs, or Machpelah. Okay. Now, the reason I know about this is because when I was over there doing my counterterrorism training, we went specifically to this mosque because it's a mosque and synagogue. The Jews and the Muslims both share this as, as a mosque and a synagogue. It's actually both. Right. So anyway, this Jewish settler named Baruch Goldstein, who was an army reservist, went to morning prayer, Muslim morning prayer, with his M16, and during morning prayer, shot a lot of Palestinians while they were praying. Okay. Of course, the Palestinians uh, end up killing him, but from there, there were numerous suicide bombings, VBIDs, and numerous attacks on Israel from the Palestinians. Okay, so them bombing the mosque, and like you said, taking like them saying like, well, we don't care about your religion, and well, it doesn't even matter. You see,
Right.
um, so it's really not like the first time that this has occurred. It's just by different means. You see what I'm saying? One
Yeah.
was one was just the shooting, and then the other way was they bombed it, but the end result was still the same. See,
And Israeli Defense Forces have been going into, not recently, but within the past year, at times been going into Al Aqsa Mosque,
right? They've done
conducting
that too.
raids.
Oh, but right, but here's the thing with the Cave of the Patriarchs, Machpelah. That's actually very sacred. That's very holy ground, for the simple fact this is where Abraham and
Right.
Sarah are buried. You
Right.
see, this is their grave site. So for him to do something like that, it's kind of like, yo, that's you're like way out of line to even do something like that on holy ground.
And there's so many areas within Jerusalem, within Israel, within Palestine, that is considered holy ground.
Go all day, and we out Dome of the Rock, Alaska Mosque, the
Hmm.
Wailing Wall, or we call it the Western Wall, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
This is all holy ground. When we get into um, uh, uh, the old city, right, Jerusalem, uh, the Church of the Sepulchre, right,
Church
and
of the
then
Holy Sepulchre, right?
you have the Garden of Gethsemane. I mean, there's just so much stuff right there in Jerusalem, and then also in East Jerusalem, talking about the Mount of Olives, right? I mean,
Hmm.
there's just so many things that are it's just holy ground, you see, and you can't desecrate things on holy ground. It's just those are off limits.
They've been off limits always in the past in wars. It seems that some of the cathedrals and things that have survived in Europe. Um, are they going to stay off limits this time?
Doesn't seem that way, does it?
No, no,
It
it
doesn't seem
doesn't,
that way.
and that's something maybe people ought to put in their mind preparing for. Okay, last night in monitoring, I saw a lot of cross-border fire, um, 50 caliber fire, um, tank artillery fire. Um, and I found out that there's this new thing they've been using called iron sting. Have you heard anything about this?
I have not heard anything about that at all.
Okay, it is a precision guided mortar shell that they've been using. They've used last night. Last night there were like 360 separate um, incoming, if you will, from
Mhm.
various sources, from the air and from the ground, and maybe even from the sea. Not going to say. Um, and some of them use something called iron sting for the first time in history, and it's a guided mortar shell that they used to take out a site that Hamas had used the night before as an operational headquarters.
Really? I
Yeah,
didn't even hear about that at
yeah.
all.
This is yeah. I heard. I mean, this just came up today. You know that they did this yesterday.
Hmm.
So and it was the just so everybody knows this isn't breaking any kind of rules or anything. The Israeli Defense Force is the one that put it out that they just used these for the first time in history, and it's
Okay.
on X or Twitter, so
Okay.
you can find it there. Um, and again, tank movement last night, heavy equipment movement, um, all the signs of precursors of what would be a ground invasion. Correct?
That's correct. And from my understanding, they were out also being terrorists in the course, like I told you, in the middle of the night, right?
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
and that's normally how, if you're going to operate, you really don't do that stuff during the daytime. All that stuff is really done at night to limit your the visibility, and of course for the element of surprise and shock. And so that's why things are done at nighttime as opposed to during the daytime.
Okay. I mentioned that there's an article from the Hill, the Washington D.C. Um, used to be a newspaper. Now it's kind of an online thing that monitors what's going on in Congress, and they're talking about a 5-front war. Um, we that includes us going to civil war at home over the incredible divisive politics because we're so weakened with and spread so thin. I can't see a 5-front war. Um, I'm having troubles. You and I talked about this. We go back like 2 or 3 years on this stuff where we were just speculating what would happen if we got drawn into a multi-front war. We've talked about it that many times on here. Now it's becoming a reality, and the focus is going. It's not. We're not going to be able to focus on everything. Correct?
That's correct. Now, like I said, right now we're focused. What we have Russia and
Right.
Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
Right. Then we have Iran and the Iran and Israel.
Yeah.
Then we have China and Taiwan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I don't know if your audience is paying attention to this, but we've been talking about BRICS for the longest time, have we not?
Yeah.
Now,
Brazil, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, China, or Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa,
right,
who
but
they
no,
control a
Iran
lot
is
of the oil. And now Iran
right.
instead of India,
Well, no, Iran is also
or in
they
addition to.
in addition to they were accepted into BRICS.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
So so you see the BRICS countries are all three of them. So you have Russia, you have Iran, and you have China. Okay. And they're looking, or not, well, right now you have one ongoing, getting ready, two's getting ready to start, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you're gonna have the third one with China, you see.
Right.
Remember, I told you it was about to drain our economy, and that's what
Right.
this was about, right? Well,
Yeah.
we can't
Yeah.
sustain. There's no way in the world we can ever sustain three. We're gonna have a hard time doing two. But
Yeah.
if it comes down to three, guess who's going to be left out? Ukraine. I can tell you right now, we're not leaving Israel's side. Okay, that's not going to happen.
The same thing
And
for Taiwan.
exactly, exactly. Okay,
Okay.
so Russia, is pretty much going to end up taking over a good part of or Europe, to regain the old Soviet Union back. You're aware of that,
Mhm.
right?
That's their goal. They haven't really been too shy about that. That they
Right.
want the
So
old Soviet Union back, which includes Poland and probably all of Germany this time instead of settling for half.
right.
And then
So
and
that's
then as much else as they can get.
so don't be surprised, if that's how this plays out, because I really don't see us leaving Israel's side at all. This stuff in the Middle East is just too big. You see.
And the rest of Europe kind of might cave pretty quickly to a Russian onslaught. And
Possibly.
Russia, Putin, Putin succeeds where Hitler failed, and
Right.
uh, and then isolates England even more, as they'll be the last, to give up, and then we're forced to negotiate with Putin over not nuking each other.
Pretty much, and he's going to do what he wants because you know uh, he pretty much has the upper hand. You see, he's really in control of a lot of this stuff. So um, it's gonna,
We can't.
we have some tough decisions to make here.
We can. It's necessary. I think what we've seen as far as this Biden speech, the budget, uh, as far here's what I'm analyzing. Here's the dots I'm connecting. Is that we're going to try to keep throwing money and stockpiled equipment into Ukraine. We can't afford to have our fighting forces on the ground in Ukraine because they will be on the ground in Israel and in the Middle East. They will be on the ground in Taiwan. Actually, the United States Marine Corps requested a battalion of Marines into Taiwan as soon as possible.
There it is. You see. You see.
Yeah.
So like I said, Ukraine's out. We gave them all that money anyway. All the money,
Yeah.
all the weapons. All right. So you know what? It's like you're tapped out now. We have bigger stuff to do. Best of luck to you. And that's pretty much what it is.
Okay,
See.
what happens if North Korea makes a move on South Korea and thus makes a move on us?
All right. So I'm not an expert, but this is what I would think. If North Korea even attempts to make a move on South Korea, that I'd probably be like us, Japan, you know, and South Korea, just all jumping on North Korea, you know. But then you're gonna have China jumping into that as well. You see, so once again, it's just gonna be um, a big melee, and I, like I said, that would be four fronts, or actually, once again, that'd be three fronts again. You know, that's gonna be three fronts again, and like I said, there's no way in the world we can sustain three wars, three fronts. It's not
Okay,
possible.
and okay, we've seen skirmishes between supporters of Israel and supporters of Palestine here in the country already,
Yeah.
right? Pardon me. Um, how safe are we here? we're just going to keep asking this question because I think it's going to be clear eventually. We're not safe in this country anymore. It's coming here in one way or one form or another.
Oh yeah, and we've discussed this before. Um, the thing about it is, I think they're really wanting to see about this invasion. Okay, and if Hezbollah makes a move, excuse me, if Hezbollah makes a move, but then also the stuff going on with Iran using the proxies to attack our bases in Iraq. Right. So we're going to take a look at those two, but then also when is an attack going to occur here? Now we talked about the sleeper cells, and they're activated. I'm sure. Okay. So they're going to do the planning phase and all that other stuff, and then um, pick.
Rehearse.
Yeah, they pick their targets, plan it out, and rehearse, and then what we call actions on the objective. That's when they carry out what we
Right.
do, right? Well,
Yeah, that's why the international call to jihad, if it was indeed a call, it's not going to be responded to, at noon on that day. It's not going to be responded to the next day. It's going to trigger the 7 steps that you just talked about.
right, right. So that's and I we discussed that before. That was just a call to arms on
Right.
Friday. That was the kickoff for this. This is going to continue as long as Israel keeps bombing the living daylights out of Gaza, killing all these Palestinians. Yeah, and we're gonna pay for that, and that's what exactly this is. It's like payback, and we're gonna keep paying it back because it's like pretty much we're gonna make you feel what we feel. You see?
Okay, I'm going to the last few things here. China sending an aircraft carrier group off the coast of Haiti.
Right, and we talked. Well, you and I spoke about that last night. I wasn't sure about that, but you ended up telling me that it was in case there was going to be a strike. I mean, they're right there.
Yeah,
Right off the right.
that's what that's what I'm hearing is why the actual reason they're saying they're coming to stabilize Haiti, with the gangs and everything. Um, I'm of the mind that they're there because Haiti's not more than 150 miles from U.S. shore.
Exactly. So if you want to launch, um, and I'm trust me, I'm pretty sure there's some subs down there somewhere.
Exactly. That's the next thing I'm going to bring up is that there are sub hunters over the Gulf of Mexico. People, I don't think people understand how deep the Gulf of Mexico is, and out in the very middle of it. But we've had sub hunters, nuclear sniffers, whatever you want to call them, out deep into the Gulf,
Right.
uh, and Texas. The whole Gulf area is, we got oil rigs out there that are potential targets. We've got refineries in Texas and around the Gulf that are potential targets. So um, I'm glad to see our military's not sleeping on the fact that they could come here. We know that Russian battleship was in Cuba about 3 weeks ago. You got to assume a Russian sub was with it, and it's probably probing our border from the Gulf of Mexico up the East Coast.
Most likely. So, like you said, we have the sub hunters out, and
Yeah, we do.
we're going to do what needs to be done to the subs because I'm pretty sure some of those subs have nukes on them. You know,
Yeah.
so
And one of the presidential doomsday planes was up and flew, for a while, at least, I quit monitoring it. It flew without its um, without its thing on
Without
that you can track it
oh,
with.
really? Okay.
Yeah. So it went dark for a while,
Mhm.
and it got refilled. Actually, if one of them flew from, I think one of them flew from Wright Patterson,
Okay.
and then the I think the presidential plane flew from Wright Pat, and then the tanker took off from the base in um northern Indiana, named after the Apollo 1 astronaut that got killed. Um, and I can't think of the name of the base. Anyway, and that the responder was still on for the tanker, and the presidential plane went dark.
Yeah.
And yeah, and we don't know where it went or who was on it or anything like that. Um, and also a command and control plane up flying in the same direction as the presidential um, doomsday plane before it went dark. So just a couple of things that we're monitoring. Uh, it sounds or it seems to me like our military is getting even more and more heightened, and we as citizens ought to consider possibly paying more attention to things.
I mean, that's always, you know, what needs to be done is your situational awareness. You see, so you don't end up getting yourself injured or killed out here because um, everything that what we're discussing is actually getting ready to happen, especially these terrorist attacks. Like I said, I don't know
Right.
when, but they're definitely going to happen, and people need to be aware of what's coming their way. I know a lot of people like to make believe that things aren't that bad or things aren't going to happen, but guess what? When this stuff goes down, this is going to be your way. This is going to be your reality wake up call here. All right. I mean, we've had numerous active shooters before, but it, like I think I told you on the last episode, that there are going to be multiple attacks here in the United States. It's not just going to be one, multiple to several attacks here in the United States. And I'm talking about from suicide bombings, the suicide bombers, just plain IEDs, the vehicle borne IEDs, also possibly sniper attacks, and then the active shooters, and
Yeah.
these are the things that are coming here to the United States. And like I said, I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm just
Right.
know ahead of time so you'll be prepared to deal with.
We had there was an incident with an Alaskan airline plane today. Um, an off-duty pilot was riding in the jump seat and jumped up and tried to um, turn off the engines of the plane. He was subdued, and it was rerouted to Portland, where it landed safely. It was heading from Washington to San Francisco, I believe. Um, so in these times, the first thing you got to do is check and see what kind of ideology that guy had. Um, Also today, there was an incident in Skokie, Illinois, um, between a group supporting Palestinians and a group supporting Israel.
So what was
Um,
it? Was anyone injured or
I don't have the details on it. I just became aware of it a few moments before I came on the air.
okay?
I just know that happened. And a couple other things real quick. Um, Two hostages were released today from Hamas, two elderly Israeli women.
Hmm.
Um, Shortly thereafter, Biden stops his speech and says, I've got to go to the Situation Room. Um, Now, I'm assuming because he's 80 years old, and he just blurted that out. I assume normally presidents don't tell you where they're going in a potentially crisis situation, but by saying, I'm going to the Situation Room, it's a pretty indicative that something pretty serious is going down, right?
Well, considering his age and a lot of blurt outs he's made before in the past, you never know. You know,
Great point. Great point. The two hostages being released. Is this, we talked about this Friday night, that it's a stall tactic.
right? That's exactly what it is. I mean, yes, they're releasing these hostages. They're 80-year-old Israeli women, and they shouldn't have taken them as hostages anyway. That's ridiculous. But they released them. We're showing, hey, look, we're working in good faith, but at the same time, they're going to restock on ammo and all the things that need to be done. They're going to be setting up in Gaza, you see, to prepare.
Trying to get as much of that aid that came across the line, trying to get as much of that to the fighters as they possibly can.
Right.
Am I correct in assuming
Yeah,
that?
sure. Get whatever they can to the fighters, also to the people. The biggest thing was them giving the aid to the people, because once again, that's going to garner the community support from the, to have the support from the community to protect them. You see, because ultimately, I was listening to what Petraeus was. He was on some show yesterday, and
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and he was sitting up there saying, it's important for the Israelis to have get the support from the people. And I'm just like, well, that's not going to happen, dude. Just for the simple fact that you bomb their hospitals, you you bomb the
Yeah.
mosques, and you bomb, you're killing innocent people. So what makes you?
Israel's got a tough battle when it comes to hearts and minds.
Yeah. So I mean, like, do you really think for that the people in Gaza are even going to begin to support the Israelis? They're going to completely turn against them. Completely turn against them.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Now, real quick, um, Jordan, Egypt, of course, Lebanon, the southern part of Syria, possibly even Iraq. Palestinian refugees, or Palestinian, um, those that have escaped from um, Israeli control, if you will, into other countries. I don't think people understand the number of Palestinian connections that are in all those countries surrounding Israel.
so you can go to Lebanon, right? You go to Lebanon.
Yeah,
You can go to Jordan. You go to Iraq,
right,
and you can go
right.
to Egypt. You see,
Okay.
and
Now these are not just people that support Palestine. These are people with relatives, with connections, that they themselves are refugees.
yes, indeed. And because of that, the connections, and you have to remember the mistreatment of these people. Okay. And this has been going on for the longest time. So that anger, uh, uh, it just permeates, or it grows, you see. And remember what Khalid Mashal said on the day of rage, what he called for the global jihad was, for
He said, "Take this from theory
it to
to
right,
practice,"
right.
basically.
But those places, in Jordan, to come to the West Bank, to knock on those doors, those are going to be their Palestinians coming to do that. You see, for all the
Hmm.
mistreatment that the Israelis have done to them, for kick them out of the West Bank, because of the settlements. It's just Um,
Boomerang.
yeah,
Everything's coming back.
exactly. You see, you can only do this to people for so long until they get tired of it. I mean, they've been fighting back, but like now they're going to really fight back. You see, so Israel has set the
Yeah.
conditions. Israel has set the conditions for the Palestinians to to come back in this manner. You see, it's just like you can't keep doing that to people, mistreating them and treat them bad, keeping them down without them feeling a certain way, or because you're totally dehumanizing people, and you cannot expect people to sit there and take that. And now when they come back and did what they did, the whole world, of course, yes, condemned, Hamas for what they did.
Hmm.
But the whole thing is, you have to take a look at who set the conditions for this.
The big picture.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Take a look at the big picture.
Okay. We, you know, if we go back 20 or 30 years even, uh, the image was that it was Palestinian people throwing rocks and trying to use sticks as their tools of engagement, and Israel slaughtering them at times. Um, that was some of the imagery. Now we see I believe the impact of Iran in the weaponry and effectiveness of Hezbollah and Hamas and even the um, Islamic Jihad of Palestine.
Hmm.
Um, it's all because of Iran, correct?
It's I'd say it's a
Or much of it is.
well, it'd be a combination. Okay, so like Iran would be the head of it. You know what I'm saying? And then
Okay,
and you
all right,
Hezbollah, which is they're going to be the ones that are actually going to like really put in the work. Okay, and Hamas too, but Hamas is like a really small portion of this. But keep in mind, Hamas and Hezbollah are duly elected to the government. They are the elected governments. One, Hamas is the
right,
elected government of Gaza, and Hezbollah is also the elected government in Lebanon. You see,
right.
so we in the United States call Hezbollah a terrorist organization, right? But the UN
Hmm.
does not recognize them as a terrorist organization whatsoever.
They recognize them as the legitimate government of Lebanon.
Oh, in Gaza and Lebanon. That's the thing with Hezbollah too. You see, we call
Hmm.
them a terrorist organization, but the UN recognizes them as a legitimate government of Lebanon. You see,
One side's terrorist, as the other side's freedom
right?
fighter.
But I mean, it's an elected government. You see, they're
Right.
not they're
Yeah.
not they're not
Yeah.
they're not armed non-state actors like Al Qaeda or ISIS. You see, they're not like that.
All right. Now that you brought that up, let's end with this. Um, the bombing of this mosque is going to um, agitate at a minimum the groups you just talked about, ISIS. Um, who should we start watching for to come into play here over the next 4 or 5 days?
All right, so this is what I'm seeing, right? Um, remember how I told you all those extremist groups eventually, they're all those foreign fighters
Yeah.
are going to trickle in to Gaza, okay?
Okay.
Or even they go through Lebanon and come south into um into Israel, you know, with that push from Hezbollah. You see, so
Hmm.
um, be on the lookout for that, because once again, as I said, the whole fight here is about Israel. Okay, you still have the IRGC. Okay, that's the Iranian Revolutionary Guards,
Right.
right? You're gonna have
Okay.
they're gonna be involved in this too. I don't know how much fighting they're gonna do, but I'm pretty sure they'll be like in the command and control center. All right, we want you to do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. To Hezbollah and to Hamas.
Damascus, as we're showing here on the map, Damascus, Syria, and Beirut, relative. Oh shoot, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Relatively close to each other.
Uh-huh.
Hold on. And this we hear a lot about. Okay, Iraq's back here. Iran's over here. We hear a lot about arms coming into Damascus and then going into Beirut and then coming down towards either the border between Lebanon and Israel or down into Gaza at one time. How are they coming? Are they coming? How are they getting into Syria? Are they coming through Iraq?
Yeah,
The weapons from Iran.
Okay, so what this most likely, this is what I think. I'm not sure. All right, but
Right, we're
right,
speculating, of
right.
course.
So if it's coming from Iran, then it's gonna go through Iraq, and those Shia groups are gonna, of course, be assisting them, right?
Okay,
And
yeah,
then from Iraq, probably into Syria, and then from
okay,
Syria, then down into Lebanon, right?
uh-huh,
Given to Hezbollah, all right. But then the other way is is they can take that route from Syria all the way down to Egypt, right? Through the
yeah,
waterway, right?
right,
And then
and bring it back up.
yep, up through Gaza.
Okay, all right, okay, one final question. Uh, Tur I believe Turkey is going to be incredibly key in what eventually goes down.
Right. Well, Erdogan already said he was getting involved. He already picked this.
I know. Yeah, yeah. Um, how do we walk the tightrope? We being the United States, how do we walk the tightrope of having Turkey as a potential enemy in the Middle East while a valuable ally against Putin in the Russian Ukraine
All
conflict?
right. So how can I like phrase this? Um, Now it's all or nothing. Okay. It's if you're joining Iran and uh and Hezbollah and Hamas, then you're no longer a friend of the United States. Period. You see? You can't
Wow.
does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. And what I anticipated is just, you know, the domino that falls from that is that you're no longer a friend. We can't trust you as part of NATO.
Right. Well, but
And
I thought they split from NATO because I thought that they were discussing that for some time. That
I know they were discussing it, but I didn't think they had
mm,
because I thought they were aiding. And I haven't been on this story because I've been following the Middle East, but I thought they were aiding Ukraine in making sure the grain ships got out. I thought Turkey was helping Ukraine, and that honked off Russia.
yeah,
But
yeah, I wasn't sure, but I didn't know that. No.
that's been a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
So
Mm,
all right. So Wednesday night we do this again.
for sure. For sure.
All right, man. Okay. And I imagine I imagine we'll have plenty more things to talk about. I don't imagine we'll have a Speaker of the House by then, but um, of course, you and I'll be talking with you offline, and anything big happens, you're welcome to hop on here when it does, as you know. Okay.
Okay, we'll do. Hey, thank you very much, Barry.
But otherwise, we'll see you Wednesday night at 9.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you, man.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good night.
You do the same. All right. There we go. Chris, sit rep, what's going on around the world, what's potentially to come. I don't think we can emphasize enough the and we're not trying to call this paranoia. We're not trying to get anybody freaked out or anything like that. Just being real, that there are potentially people in our own country that want to hurt some of us potentially, and you need to be situationally aware. What's that mean? It doesn't mean in combat, you're not carrying around your long gun, and no, it means knowing where the exits are, just in case. When you're inside someplace you're not always there, somewhere where you're not always at, where you don't always know where the exits are. It's always a good idea just to know. You never know what's going to happen. It means trusting your gut. It means if something doesn't feel right, trust that and remove yourself from the situation. It means having some extra water and some extra food on hand just in case something happens and you have to shelter in place for a while. It doesn't mean quit living your life. It doesn't mean getting scared. If you're a spiritual person, we're not supposed to have fear. So just something to think about. We'll do it again Wednesday night. I'm sure there'll be a lot to talk about between now and then. And again, if something big does happen, primarily what I'm talking about is if the ground invasion, if the Israeli ground invasion into Gaza does begin, then we'll be on as soon as we are aware of that, because to me that's a domino that's going to trigger a lot of other events potentially. So thanks for watching. Greatly appreciated. Namaste. Shalom. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Blessings be upon you from the Most High, the one true living God, if you so desire them. Peace. Positive vibrations. Love y'all like chocolate chip cookies, but I'm going to go have a grilled cheese sandwich now. Monday, or see you Wednesday night, if not before. Thanks for being